for a minute. You ready?
To hear her voice, Nicola Bulley's family have only the videos they filmed in happier times. And time matters. It's now 2 weeks since she disappeared while walking their pet dog.
Here, I'll find her. If Nicola was in that river, I would have found her. I can guarantee you that. She wouldn't have, we would have found her. And she's not there, in that section of the river up there. My personal view, getting carried out to the sea, I think it's a long way to go in a tidal river, a tide that goes out, a tide that comes in. I would have thought that she would have surfaced by now and been found by dog walkers. That's my honest opinion.
Personally, and again, this is just my opinion, I'm 100% convinced it's not the river. People don't just vanish into thin air. It's absolutely impossible. So something has happened. Something has happened. Find out what it is. Find out what it is. My plea now is, personally, I want every house, every garage, every outbuilding, the land scrutinised. I want it all searched. I want it all scrutinised. Every piece of it.
Yes, normally in cases like this, you'll hear the police use language like we're keeping an open mind or we're exploring all avenues, and then Superintendent Riley. She was pretty unequivocal that their working hypothesis, their theory, was that Nicola had gone into the water. Now, if they have some evidence to support that, which they're not making public, then now is definitely the time, if not way too late.
On a specialist search since 1997, and I've worked on lots of weird ones, an unusual one. This is baffling. It's baffling me, it's baffling the police. The only evidence we've got here is the mobile phone and the harness. Now, if she's not here, there's either a third party or she's disappeared. If she's not in this river, she's just disappeared off the face of the earth.
But this is a missing persons case, which is dominating the headlines. The police have asked that the public don't speculate. But of course, one person's theory is another person's speculation. And of course, Nicola's friends and family are working on theories. When there's a void of information, it will get filled by speculation.
Hello all, and welcome back to Mind Juice. Today, Friday, February 10th, marks the 2-week milestone since the beautiful mother of two, Nicola Nikki Bulley, seemingly vanished into thin air while out enjoying her weekly routine, walking her Springer Spaniel Willow along the River Wyre, after having just dropped her 2 girls off at school. Since the onset, the Lancashire police force has exhibited steadfast insistence on this categorically being a missing persons case, or an accident involving the river nearby. That is, stressing no criminal involvement. Further, local authorities maintain that the answers everyone is looking for are most likely awaiting within what lies beneath the waters of the River Wyre. Over the recent week, we have witnessed SGI, captained by Peter Faulding, leading his team in to assist with cutting-edge sonar technology, just having finished up their search a few days ago, Wednesday actually. Now, in this episode, I want to discuss all of the potential realities that may have taken place, considering the circumstances in context. What we do know is that Nicola was on the towpath, walking her dog Willow, wherein she was observed by multiple witnesses, the lady in the red coat and the lady with the prom, whom have both come forward willingly, yet it doesn't seem like they were able to provide much furtherance of detail or insight, as far as we the public can tell. There are also reportedly been a few others that have spoken up. For instance, up on the upper field, there is said to be a man with a white dog whom was reportedly the 910 witness, as we see in the timeline. I will focus on him in depth much more later. Typically, which is new to me, being from the States, villages in the UK like that of St. Michael's on the River Wyre are pretty well insulated with CCTV cameras to ensure safety, policing, what have you. There are various reasons and rationale. However, as we have come to find out, there are potentially 2 that were not in working order on that Friday morning. the one in the caravan park, as well as one positioned on a pole located in the upper left field, where she was last observed with Willow around 9:10 a.m. Now, we also know that her phone, dog harness, and lead, as well as Willow, were found back by the kissing gate bench, where it's suspected Nicola may have fallen in or entered the river. That's the police's main hypothesis anyways. I personally have narrowed it down to 4 broad sweeping potential answers. You can see them here, and I will get into much more detail as we go along. Of course, there are multiple possibilities under each option. Further, I have ranked them in what I consider to be the most likely order, starting with 1 and then ending with 4. Firstly, I want to briefly discuss number 3 and number 4, as I believe it is safe to presume that they are the least likely at this point. However, with that said, who knows? Nicola could be found in the river further downstream. We have yet to find out. There seems to be some apparent reason they persist with the water search. Or is this just the hand they're electing to play? They've even extended the search out to the sea in the bay only a few days ago. Now, at this stage, I doubt this is where the answers are, in the waters, that is. Then again, what do I know? I'm in the Midwest states and can only gather as much information that is available. Thus, I will briefly discuss the aforementioned potentialities and then focus the heart of this approach on the top 2, with either one of them seeming extremely plausible. Yet, I have come to learn and understand that option 1, and as well as a specific party, may be of significant interest towards the investigation going forward. Stick around, hear me out, and then let me know your take in the comments below. With that said, if you enjoy the content, please give the video a thumbs up. It truly does make a difference. And further, double down and subscribe if you haven't already. I often check my channel analytics, as I am passionate about continuing to grow this community and cause. Always surprised to learn when I look at those, that is, that over 90% of my viewers aren't yet subscribed. So please, for those that we cover, take a second. This work does take a lot of time. Before we jump into it, please understand, I am attempting to present this with the utmost integrity and respect towards Nicola, her family, as well as her friends. Pardon me if it isn't 100% accurate, detail for detail. I only have so many resources to confirm and research. With that said, feel free to contact me with the provided email with information if you'd like. I'd love to develop as clear of a picture and perception as possible, but no pressure. First things first, thank you to everyone from across the pond over there in the UK. Your engagement in the comments has been amazing, to say the least. The conversation is constructive, positive, well-tempered. I highly appreciate that more than you know, for I believe this is where true progress can be made. Let's keep it up. I will indeed be covering more from your part of the world as growth here at the channel continues. I genuinely enjoy the culture and interaction approach. Last note I want to make before we get into it. As you observed in the past video regarding the same topic, I attempted to use an educated rationale based on reasonable explanations. I am in no way trying to discredit anyone's character and or point fingers unjustly, errantly. Yes, I will be straightforward. The partner Paul concerned me in his original interview. However, I do respect what he is going through. Who am I to judge too harshly? Sincerely. Now, this does not insinuate that I have backed away from him. In fact, I remain exactly where I was a few days ago. A bit perplexed as to his behavior and choice of words, yet I believe my attention and concern has indeed shifted more towards one of the witnesses, as you will see. It is not my intent to attack anyone's character, merely asking the hard questions. Unfortunately and undoubtedly, this does include questioning certain individuals and their actions that are close to the situation. People other than Paul. Please understand the underlying aim is bringing Nicola home. Starting with the least likely, given what we know today, let's get into it. Number 4, left herself by choice. I.e., for example, she wanted to start a new life or a fresh start. Maybe she was being overwhelmed with the role of being a wife and a mom, and just an example. Now, these 4 options that I picked are any conceivable outcome that could possibly happen, okay? I personally don't believe this one is likely at all, but then again, I don't know her. I don't know how she was feeling mentally. Okay? Would she do this to her kids, Willow, partner Paul, family, friends, etc., while amidst a conference call after dropping her two girls off at school, meanwhile spending quality time with her pup? I doubt it. Now, I understand many of you are like, come on, man, this is a dumb one. And to be honest, if I were going off my own opinion, I agree, given my understanding of Nicola as a person, daughter, mother, partner. I highly doubt this is likely. However, I try to approach each case without personal bias, taking a step back and considering what is all possible. We need not spend any further time on number 4. However, there were a few clips I wanted to show you from her sister as well as her father, whom both mentioned the idea of her potentially going off somewhere. Yes, I realize this may be boilerplate. Then again, how are we to know without understanding where she was at in her life mentally at the time? Her father and sister both, straightforward, suggest, hey, if you're out there, anywhere, come home and we can work it out. Work what out? It's extremely different than them speaking to her as, please let her go, don't harm her. We just want to know she's okay, as would be the case if parents and a sister were speaking out towards a captor, or if she had been abducted. I hope you understand what I'm saying there. They are speaking directly to her as though this could be a possibility. So I thought it was important to bring up. Personally, I don't think this is the case, but then again, who am I to say? Heck, she very well may. Unlikely, but possible. You have to take into consideration what her dad and her sisters say. Yes, they may mean nothing, but hey, they stuck out to me, so I wanted to share. Here are those aforementioned clips, including the sister and father.
Obviously, my hope is that she's still out there. Something's happened and she's, I don't know, needed to take herself off for whatever reason. And we just want a home. We need her home. Her children need a home. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. Nikki, if you're bloody out there, just let us know that you're okay. We can sort anything out. We just want you home. We just want you home.
But, you know, if Nicola is out there, if she is watching this, then all we'd like to say is just come home, contact the police, contact ourselves.
Yes, I know the sister and the father are likely expressing such generically, but it's interesting to ponder. Now, moving swiftly on to number 3. The river. Authorities and local police are remaining grounded in the theory that the answers are most likely in what lies beneath the waters of the River Wyre. As we are all aware, over the recent days and week, SGI, led by forensic expert utilizing top-notch sonar technology, Peter Faulding, brought his team in to assist, wrapping up the extent of their efforts Wednesday, just a few days ago. Upon finishing, Faulding gave various interviews and comments, wherein he emphatically stated Nicola is not within the stretch of water already searched. So, one would think they are finally going to consider alternative outcomes and or begin to shift heavy focus elsewhere in seek of answers. Nicola. That is, alternative explanations not fixated on the river or water. However, as of Wednesday evening, I saw an update article come across that the police department is in fact extending their search out into the sea and bay. They must know something more.
Superintendent Sally Riley, who has been leading this investigation, there are suggestions that if their theory is true, and that is their main hypothesis, that 45-year-old mum of 2, Nicola Bulley, fell into the River Wyre. If that is true, then it is very potential that she could have flown, that could have gone down this river and out through to the coast.
Now, I mean this with all due respect, sincerely. I don't know why this seems so absurd to me. I quite honestly can't believe it. You spend the first 12 to 13 days on slow-moving currents on the River Wyre, bring in an expert whom sternly expresses she is not in the river. Meanwhile, Superintendent Riley, whom I do respect, maintains it continues to be a missing person non-criminal activity case. Hence, the latest move after multiple teams checked the water, let's extend the search. Take a look at the stark contrast here.
Yeah, well, it's a baffling one, Jeremy. I was talking to the police this afternoon, and with the police search advisors, we went to the bench where, Nicola disappeared, was supposedly where a mobile phone was found. And the police divers were on scene that afternoon. By the days she went missing, they were in the water searching. The river is not moving fast. And after 24, 25 years of doing this type of work and hundreds of cases, I am totally baffled, because the divers, normally you would expect, put a diver in. People, if they drown, they generally go down where they are. We normally find them within sort of 5 to 10 metres of where they went down, even after a few days. This is the most baffling case I've ever worked on. So this is a totally odd thing. Whether it's a plant, there could be a third party involved, I don't know. But the only evidence we've got to go on at the moment is the mobile phone down the river. I've got total faith in the police dive team. We work with them all the time. So, I think, Jeremy, after I heard today how the police were here so quickly to search that area where it's believed where Nicola went in, I personally don't think she's in the river. That's just my gut instinct at this point. I may be proved wrong later on, but the police have done a fantastic search already with their existing resources, plus their sonar. Now we've got our sonar.
But at this time, we understand that she was by the river. Our main working hypothesis, therefore, is that Nicola has sadly fallen into the river. I'd like to reassure the community that nothing in this investigation so far, it has been checked out. If it's come into it suggesting crime, it has been checked out and discounted. So every single potential third-party line of inquiry, any potential suspicious or criminal element has been looked at and discounted. But it does remain our belief that Nicola sadly fell into the river and that this is a missing person inquiry.
I want to be clear. It is and was never my intention to be critical of anyone involved in this investigation. More specifically, those on the ground investigating. I support police 100%, truly. Heck, if I could go back to being a kid, back to the what do I want to be when I grow up, I would have likely seriously considered the FBI route. However, after already going through graduate programs within different disciplines, old Father Time has caught up to me. Yes, I am still pretty young, but not young enough to build the resume such requires, typically starting back in high school. Anyways, I am merely, with good intention, highlighting the discrepancies, studying the reasons how and why do they believe so strongly that she went into the water. They have to be withholding more critical information and knowledge to have them putting all of their eggs in this basket, so to speak. Hey, maybe they are getting closer. Let's all hope so, I guess. That is, if she is no longer with us, presuming that if she is in the water, this would be matter of fact. But bloody hell, I had to use that one time. First time ever. I have a question. How at this point can they continue to maintain the same public message 2 weeks in, coming up with nothing? Again, I respect police, but we know now that there were multiple CCTV cameras that were not in working order on that day, which both did indeed cover and thus would have witnessed more of her that day. Likely what happened and how. One area in particular, the upper field location, wherein the witness saw Nicola and Willow off the lead around 9-10 a.m., this is an area where a CCTV camera was missing or wasn't recording. Thus, it can be without a doubt considered reasonably possible that something may or could have taken place outside of the water. I'm not suggesting what or how, merely the fact that something could have. Why don't they express this in their public address or hypothesis? Why are they not acknowledging the missing footage? Why is this not a part of, like I said, their quote-unquote hypothesis? They express that they will remain open to further inquiries, yet sternly oppose speculation. Let me clarify something here. Speculative speculation is based on arbitrary assumptions, that is, they are based on random choice or personal whim, rather than harnessing sound reason and or sifting things through a validated logical system of thought processes. That's speculation. On the other hand, a hypothetical or hypothesis is based on certain priori, that is, reasoning premised on existing evidence that can be tested. Further, a hypothesis is considered to be falsifiable if it is possible to conceive of an experimental observation that disproves the idea in question. That is, one of the possible outcomes of the designed experiment must be an answer that, if obtained, would disprove the hypothesis, suggesting alternatives outside of the water are not a basis for one to claim speculation. In fact, I argue this is Detective 101, right? Why? Because these are alternatives that could conceivably be an answer that disproves the hypothesis in question, her having to be in the water. With that said, I want to stop and make everyone understand, make myself very clear. This is the entire aim and purpose of this content in my approach. Not to speculate, but to investigate from afar, to consider potential alternatives that may shed light on a potential answer, narrowing it down. The title of this episode. Considering 4 reasonably rooted, realistic outcomes that could have happened. Much like the water theory, you cannot disprove that the abducted or taken option or the idea of the partner having an affair until the water route she is found is proven to be the actual answer. To this point, it is not. Now again, this is not my opinion. Nicola is still missing. Thus, alternatives that could conceivably be the answer are not speculation. It is in fact a challenge to their hypothesis. And they don't want to entertain this. Why? Either they have some tell leading them to believe beyond a doubt she is in the water, which I don't think is likely given that they are still seeking dash cam footage on Blackpool Garstang Road at 9:15 a.m. This proves they aren't 100% on the water theory. If she did fall in, please tickle me with rationale as to how dash cam footage over yonder on a roadway would be of any assistance. Please. Thus, simply put, their hypothesis is falsifiable if it is possible to conceive of an alternative observation that disproves the idea in question. Hence, any alternatives to the water narrative, they have already looked into and discounted all third-party inquiries. How? There is no way. Even with the assistance of the FBI and all the police forces on the globe, you could have not possibly done so in 12 days. Seriously, how many tips are there? 500? 2,000? This claim is erroneous. It makes me wonder if this just isn't a superintendent. Now, please remember, I underscore respect for the authorities, yet only sharing my philosophy rooted in sound logic and analysis of the circumstances at hand. Why? For Nicola and her family, okay? So I'm not going to entertain any comments that want to speak on that. I just want to make that clear. Okay, is she covering the department's ass because she knows they botched the investigation from the get-go? I'm not saying or asserting this. I am pondering a possibility, okay? They've presumed it was a missing person case from day one and have not wavered. Well, now they can't change. They didn't tape anything off. They didn't preserve the bench for potential evidence. They did not take the harness phone into evidence. That I understand anyways. I mean, maybe they did. All the pictures show all these visitors coming, sitting, and touching, and I'm sorry, but at this point, I deep down wonder if this isn't what Riley is trying to avoid here. An embarrassment? Just a thought. How could I know? But it's not related to the water. The point is, something could have happened, and nope, you cannot pull CCTV footage to check it out, or look into it, and then discount it. If you ask me, How does this eradicate the potentiality of a criminal element? Seriously. If anything, it leaves as an option that cannot be ignored or discounted. I want to emphasize with a bongo drum. The place of the witness on the upper field at 9:10 a.m. sighting, to me, is extremely suspicious. Okay? Within this vicinity, one of the two CCTV cameras is said to be not functioning. This 9:10 a.m. sighting was by what I believe and heard to be an older man whom was walking a white dog. He has yet to speak publicly, yet has sent forth his wife to do such for him. Don't worry, I will elaborate on him further here in a bit. No, please, everyone, I'm not being snarky. Why? Isn't he the one coming out and speaking? Honestly. Why? Further, it has been discounted and checked out, so every single third-party line of inquiry and any potential suspicious or criminal element has been looked at and discounted. No, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm emphasizing it to know that it's somebody else's voice and not my own. It's terrible that I have to reiterate the fact that I respect police because I know how some people take it. Okay, again, with all due respect, how can the superintendent assert with such confidence every single third-party line of inquiry, a potential suspicious or criminal element has been looked at and discounted? How? Okay, fair enough, CCTV. Well, hey now, there have been determined to be two, not one, but two, in the exact area of coverage where Nicola and Willow walked that day. They were not working. Further, why are they then asking for dashcam footage off of Blackpool and Garstang Road, like I said? They're looking for footage specifically around 9:15 a.m. If she was in the water, this would have absolutely no value whatsoever. I apologize if I just blew the cover off that, but bloody hell, I kind of like using that phrase. It doesn't take much to read between the lines, sincerely. I support police, don't get me wrong. But to be on day, 11, 12, 13, 14, come today, Friday, every single third-party inquiry has been looked at and discounted? How thoroughly was or were they looked at? Jiminy Cricket. Seriously. I literally can't believe the stark contrast between an expert in the field. Yes, he is not a detective. Peter Faulding, I speak of. But, I mean, Aquaman. Let's give him that. Yet they remain locked on the idea that she fell in with only having a phone left behind on the bench. Willow tied up. How can this conclusion be made? I'll make it easy. It can't. It's that simple. Even if they have more information, what information could it be? Well, I'll tell you, it's not the Fitbit. It was learned through a family friend that the Fitbit was not with her and had not been synced up to the cloud since Tuesday, 3 days before she went walking. The only thing that's going to give you is information on her previous and past walking incidences. Well, I'll tell you what, whatever happened this day most likely has never happened before. I mean, unless this is her second or third time going missing for 2 weeks. I mean, the Fitbit ain't going to help. What else could they possibly have that would lead them to that? There's no slip marks. Wouldn't that have come out? What could they possibly have? A witness that saw her fall in, she would have been found by now. How can this conclusion be made? It's that simple. They either must have more to believe such, or they are bluffing, meanwhile investigating alternatives behind the scene. Or, third option, they're covering their own ass because they realize they screwed the pooch. This is another interesting thought, kind of a side note, but one thing I did notice, speaking of it being a bluff, the crew out on the Bay region searching appeared to be 1 to 2, maybe 3 boats. Yet you had 4 times the detectives on the River Wyre. Yet you only have 1 or 2 boats at the mouth of the ocean? Come on now. Reminds me of the river search in Delphi. Not to get off track there, but I am dumbfounded. How? Why are they so persistent with this avenue when all the signs have seemingly led to all their other directions? Maybe they know something we don't, like I said. Have more evidence to suggest the River Wyre is indeed the answer. But what? Are they playing their hand? Are they covering their own ass? Why are they continuing to press this direction? I don't know. Maybe they're discreetly investigating potential alternatives behind the scene and they're getting close to cracking the thing.
And there was periods of inactivity, for example, that the police are not going to make us aware of yet.
Yeah.
They know more than we do. What I will say is that if Lancashire police have got this wrong, then by crikey, trust in the police, which is on the floor, is going to go even lower.
If you're still with me, thank you. Things are about to get really good. On to number 2. The partner potential affair. For example, a motive may be custody of the kids if there's an issue there, a outstanding debt, monetary issues, insurance fraud, etc. Now, I'm not going to dive into each of these individually. They are simply examples for why a partner would have potential motive, okay? I'm not insinuating that Paul is involved. I'm merely acknowledging the statistics in situations like this, okay? So please bear with me as we go through this. I have been carefully considering how it is I want to approach this segment. Why? Because I don't want to come across that I am simply pointing a finger at the partner Paul without any justification. Now, I fully understand, however, I ask everyone listening to realize that I am looking at this for Nicola's perspective. The idea that suggesting anything awry with the partner is off limits or how dare you, he is distraught, as we have frequently heard over the past week or so. Now, I'm not contesting that he is or is not. Quite frankly, my best wishes are with him if it turns out he has absolutely nothing to do with it. But until then, from an investigative standpoint, I will remain non-biased. That is, precisely, simply because many feel one should leave the family and friends alone. And for the most part, I do respect this, truly. But I want to be clear. I cannot let it go so far as because he is family and or also including a friend potentially, I cannot consider him or them or point out what I perceive as oddities because I shouldn't. With that said, again, for Nicola, anything goes. If you watch my previous episode, you are familiar with the breakdown I did over his initial interview. It was a bit off to me, to say the least. He did not mention her name one time. He didn't want to think about anything beyond his girls. Doesn't know how he is coping. Even laughing and smirking at some points. Lack of emotion. Gaze was all over the place. Now, I have no idea what the status of their relationship was, nor will I proclaim to suggest such. I am merely taking what media coverage there has been and presenting to you how it has come across to me. As of today, Friday, marking the 2-week milestone, my concern regarding him has waned a bit. Since that first interview, he has really amped up his public involvement, making more public appearances, visiting the bank with Peter as you saw the other day. And apparently he has a special interview tonight as a Friday night special. He also sent in a voicemail wherein he does reference Nikki's name, and to be fair, does come across to be a bit more quote-unquote normal, I guess one could say. I guess we'll see. Time will tell. Further, you'll remember from my last episode, I included a few segments from the behavior panel in regards to Paul's choice of words, demeanor, behavior, etc. Up until that point, that channel had not yet done a piece on him. However, a few days ago, they did put out a 18-minute analysis, if you want to call it that. No, I'm not being critical, but why do it? Why do I say that? Because they hardly ever assess subjects within an active investigation, like Paul in this case. Hence, even if they did believe he was showing this sign of deception or that sign, they would not come out directly and say it. Why? Because they have a reputation to uphold. It would be a bad look if they went out onto a limb suggesting anomalies here or there directly, and then come to find out he just has an odd way of dealing with grief. Remember, behavioral assessment and analysis is not an exact science. It's more similar to that of the lie detector test. Extremely valuable in certain aspects to a certain extent. However, it is not foolproof, if you will. i.e., it would not be strong enough to stand up in a court of law on its own premises, if you follow me. There are plenty of haters out there towards the discipline. However, I myself tend to give it a lot of credibility. But I do indeed understand and recognize it is not an end-all be-all. So as you can presume, I was disappointed with their recent take, aside from Chase Hughes. Why? Well, Chase Hughes held his ground and verbalized my exact stance during the last episode, and how it currently stands. Not that he's involved, or that he's guilty, or he's the guy, go get him. No, instead maintaining reservation, verbally. There is not enough to determine either way. The other three panelists were quick to say, nope, not the guy, whereas Chase stated that he could not count him out as a suspect, which isn't really saying much. But then again, it is. It validates what I am seeing. Take a listen.
Definitely got an external locus of control where the world happens to him. He's not very much in charge of things. But we're seeing a ton of things stack up here to where I think he believes, not that he's guilty of doing something, but I think he believes that this is a foregone conclusion. And it all starts with this one moment of it's all about me and the girls. It's not about her anymore. He doesn't discuss it at all, not one tiny bit. And he thanks the people for their support and not their assistance. That's a big deal in looking around. And he's introducing complexity and data and difficulty to finding her instead of encouraging people to help and talking about his outlook and how she might be found. Lastly, almost lastly, he forgets to use her name here. Doesn't use her name, doesn't make an appeal for help from anybody, and there is zero mention of a desire for her to be found or for her to come back home. That is extremely odd. So, something's off, or he's already just come to the mental conclusion that there's nothing he can do about it because of his external locus of control.
So, but I think if anybody is looking in his direction right now in terms of being a perpetrator of a crime, I will say categorically you're looking in exactly the wrong direction. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yep, I agree with you. And I would say that I would maybe minimize the severity of that a little bit for my mind, just seeing this one little clip here, that I wouldn't take him out as a suspect here, personally. Greg?
Now, I love all of these guys and respect them equally to a very high degree. But here I was a bit bummed to see Mark Bowden take such a biased, I am from England, therefore I understand the cultural norms, he is not your guy approach. I'm not jumping all over him or critiquing him. I just recognized he was quick to assert that given Paul was from the northern region of the UK, he's going to be a bit more stoic. Thus, he then used this as a foundation for his assessment and conclusion. For me, this is dangerous bias. You can't allow what you think is an understanding to be a basis for your assessment. But that's my opinion, with all due respect. I know most of you listening probably love Mark Bowden, as he proudly represents the UK, as do I. I just felt and perceived that off of a 2-minute interview, it is a little extreme to assess he's not your guy. No hate, though, Mark. I love you, man. He'll probably never listen to this. Now, Chase Hughes mirrors my perception from the onset. You can even hear me express this in my previous episode. Prior to this even being released, I was ecstatic to hear him maintain the exact stance I believed he would. I look up to him a lot. I believe he was right on cue here. Not assessing his guilt, yet, again, maintaining reservation that he cannot yet be counted out. He states, he's come to the mental conclusion there is nothing he can do about it because of potentially his external locus of control. That is, Chase is referencing the psychology of personality here. That is, stating that Paul, having an external locus of control, is the degree to which Paul, he believes that he, as opposed to external forces, has control over the outcome of the events in his life, or particularly this instance. She is already missing. Hence, external forces will be the arbiter. Now, let's take a listen to Paul's recent voicemail audio.
It's been 10 days now since Nicola went missing. I have 2 little girls who miss their mummy desperately, and we need her back. It's been such a tough time for the girls especially, but also for me, all of Nikki's family and friends, as well as the wider community. I want to thank them for their love and support. We're also really grateful to Peter and his team from SGI for coming up and helping support the work of Lancashire Police as they continue their investigation. Their support is amazing. If anyone has any information which could help find Nikki, I urge them please to get in touch with the police, help us provide the answers that we all so badly need. We have to find her safe and well. I can't put those girls to bed again tonight with no answers. Thank you.
It's been a difficult time, especially for me. If anyone has any information that could help find Nikki, I urge them to please get in touch with police. We have to find her safe and well. I can't put those girls to bed again tonight with no answers. Yes, Paul, this is more like it. He mentions her name and urges others to help. Further, he suggests he wants her home safe and well. I can't put those girls to bed again tonight with no answers. When I first heard that, I thought, he's almost in a state of denial, doesn't want to fathom any further than she's simply away for the time being and will return. Further, I thought, can't put those girls to bed again without answers, but you will and you did. And what do I mean by that? At the time of him stating that, it's highly unlikely that the answers were going to come a few hours later at that exact instance. Again, is this him showing that he is in that state of denial? As long as there's hope, there's hope. This is more what I am looking for. This reveals more about how he is in fact coping, even though he says he hasn't been coping, but this psychologically reveals. Or maybe he's refusing to face the actual reality that she may be gone and not coming back. His mind hasn't even gone there. And it shouldn't. Now, another observation I want to make briefly. And with this, I pondered even bringing it up. But you know what? This is all about Nicola, and I'm going to bring it up. Emma, I respect you if you hear this, and this is in no way degrading your character. It's just from the outside looking in, me wanting to raise the observation. I was a bit shocked to see Emma White at the river with Paul and Peter. I mean, I have no place to judge or question. Please hear me out. I will explain. I want to be extremely clear. I am not insinuating anything, yet merely expressing that it was at this point, during this video, I realized just how involved Emma was and is, even at Paul's side on the river's edge. Yet, Nicola's family, or namely her sister, is not. Nor are her other friends. With Paul, that is, alongside Paul. Of course they have come out in abundance to support her along the way, her friends. Then a few hours went by, and I heard that Emma created a GoFundMe, initially setting it at $100K or 100,000 pounds, yet lowered it after public outcry and sleuthers trying to attack her. Why lower it? I thought to myself, is she paranoid? If the cause is for Nicola and raising money, all the naysayers can go take a hike. Even the interviewer specifically asked Emma, how's Paul? Then today, she has an interview wherein she's smiling. Paul has been brave.
2 weeks on, but we still have that hope that today will bring something and we can bring those girls home to Paul and Nick, bring Nicky home.
And how are Paul and the girls holding up?
Again, Paul's going to put a very brave face on for those girls, hasn't he? Where he can't crumble as well when Mummy's missing. Paul's got to remain very strong for them, but he's taking each day as it comes. Obviously, we're keeping normality, the children at school, so Paul has that downtime to sadly think and reflect on what's going on.
Yeah, you're great friends with Nikki and Paul. What's Paul saying
this morning. What did you have a chance to speak to him after the conference yesterday?
Yeah, as soon as we heard, we said, "What's the message?" And he was just like, keep going until we find something factual.
Again, I want to be clear. I'm not insinuating Emma White has anything to do with it. The observation was that I just realized how she must be Nicola's best friend, because Paul trusts her. The interviewers seem to always ask her about Paul. You don't see that with the other friends. I don't believe that Paul and has anything to do with it at this point. But like I said, I included the observation because it is important to remember and store away. I believe Emma's married, but I know a lot of people have been hating on Emma, and speculating and all this. And in reverse, I think it's very likely that she's just stepping up and being a very good friend that she is. But also, it's also something to keep an eye on if things change down the road. But it's not fair to do that now. I think she's just a best friend doing what I would hope someone would do for me if I went missing. So I want to follow this up here with a interview that I just saw came out just about an hour ago with Paul himself. And I think it's a pretty profound step in the right direction. So let's check that out, and then we'll move on to the final number one option. Alrighty.
Becoming days, becoming weeks. When Nicola first disappeared, people assumed there must be a logical explanation, that she was bound to turn up. But as those first few hours passed, they grew increasingly concerned. And then it was days, and then it was weeks, with still no clues, no answers.
You ready?
To hear her voice, Nicola Bulley's family have only the videos they filmed in happier times. And time matters. It's now 2 weeks since she disappeared while walking their pet dog. For her partner Paul and the rest of the family, the unbearable wait for answers grows even more painful.
Anger, utter frustration, confusion, disbelief, surrealism. Nothing feels real. My main focus is the children, always has been. So that's my focus that gets me through. It's just my opinion. I'm 100% convinced it's not the river. People don't just vanish into thin air. It's absolutely impossible. So something has happened. Something has happened. Find out what it is. Find out what it is. My plea now is, personally, I want every house, every garage, every outbuilding, the land scrutinised. I want it all searched. I want it all scrutinised. Every piece of it.
There you go, Paul. I love it. He's pissed. He's pissed. Two very big tells from this interview today. Number one, I'm 100% sure she is not in the river, as he states. Remember, he was on the bank with Peter Faulding, the expert brought in. As did Faulding influence my perspective, it has apparently influenced Paul's as well. The police have to be torqued. But hey, rightfully so. It appears they deserve it. The more time I spend on this case, I'm beginning to think they realize they messed up big time. That is, letting the first 2 weeks go by without considering a criminal element. Well, at least taking it seriously anyways. Number two, one of the aspects of his first interview that made me question and bothered me was his nonchalant, careless remark of, it's almost as if she has seamlessly vanished into thin air. Like, I get the idea, but that's not possible. Today, in this interview, Friday, he directly comes out, guns a-blazing, says people just don't vanish, it's not possible. Yes, it is almost as if his discussion with Peter Faulding has awakened him, and he now realizes that he has to take matters into his own hands, insofar as finding answers, that is. Meanwhile, police are 20 miles away searching the bay. That is the part that catches me so far off guard. At this point, who do they think they're fooling? Honestly. Hell, if someone did take her, I'd bet they'd put her in the River Wyre somewhere now. Police would be like, aha, we told you so. I honestly really can't believe it. I don't even know what to say. That's one of the sad aspects of this case. The police in Lancashire have clearly face planted with this investigation. Embarrassing, really. With that said, I think it's safe for me, in my opinion, to presume Nicola's best bet resides with Team Paula and Emma. Of course, the other family and friends following suit as well. I can't believe I'm saying that, but hey, I wanted to see, hear, and feel Paul's authentic distress come out. Today, for me, it has. Thank you, Peter Faulding. Aquaman. Now, on to what I believe is the best part of this episode. Yet here we are nearly 50 minutes in. Definitely wasn't my intention. So for all of you still listening, thank you. Thank you very much. This should be rewarding. Make your time well spent. She drops her kids off at the school over here. She parks. She comes up the road by the bridge, and then she takes a right on the towpath, right? And then she comes along here, and then up. Here's the fence, the bench, and then here's that hill where police suspected that she had fallen in. All right. Now I'm going to be using a timeline that was posted on Facebook by one of Nikki's friends for guidance while I demonstrate this really quick, and then I'll explain 2 areas of particular interest where I believe answers may be. Right here, where you'll see the family of 3, and then over here, where the old man and the white dog is. Okay? And why do I say those 2 areas? Because, yes, it's the UK and everything is understood to be covered by CCTV. However, it has been confirmed and we can see. I'll show some pictures here. However, the one picture that I got today is so blurry and you can't really read it or see it, but you can definitively see that there is a blind spot up here, Caravan Park, where there's the grumpy lady, the son, her son, and then the daughter-in-law, and then over here with the old man with the white dog. Okay, blind spot here and here. She was last known to be seen right here around 9:10 to 9:15 a.m. Okay, and then police believe that she placed her phone over here. All right. So she gets to the bench here, or well, before that, 8:43 a.m. She is seen walking along the path by the River Wyre after dropping the kids off at school. And this is a good point to make. I just pointed out these blind spots here and here. Look at all the pictures we have. The lady in the red coat, she's coming down the gate in the road of Allotment Lane, okay? And then also the lady with the prom, we can see her heading this direction, okay? And then also, there must be a CCTV picture of Nikki walking up here. They haven't released that yet. They've released CCTV pictures of her leaving her house that morning, but they haven't showed her on the actual trail. And then using data and information from her Strava account, which, just to explain that quick, it's an app used by hikers, bikers, people who do trails to kind of log their steps, you know, save their favorite routes, and then they share those with other people who are in the same type of hobbies, which unfortunately has been used in the past for stalkers, and could be used by somebody to learn and study somebody if they want to do something devious. Okay, but we know her typical route. She doesn't actually go down here along the river this way or back, okay? It is more typical that she either goes diagonal up here to the top of the hedge, or she goes along the fringe here by Caravan Park, remember, area of interest, and then back along here. And then when she gets to the hedge, you can see there is a very well easy to see path, little gravel path that you can use to walk across there, okay? But just to give you the direction from here, this would be the diagonal view to the bench right here. Here's the gate and entrance from the towpath that goes that way. If she were to take the fringe, it would go along the fence line here, and there's the Caravan Park over that way, where a CCTV camera was not working, which would have shot over here to the bench. But it's a blind spot because the camera here wasn't working. And then she'd come along the fence here, and cross the back of the hedge, either coming up diagonally or back the fence. All right. This is using information off her Strava account. Okay, so here, she's crossing right here. She either goes this way or up this way. Crosses here. Same motions here. She either goes diagonal, comes down and loops up, whether she goes back up this way, or she comes across, you know, down or down this way. You get the point. She does not enter this triangle very often given her routes. All right, which is unfortunate because the actual blind spots are over here and then over here. Okay, police believe that she was last seen right here, whereas family and friends say she's over here. Okay, now continuing on the timeline, she was seen on the towpath on 8:43 a.m., which is where we saw again the lady with the red coat and the lady with the prom along the towpath, which neither of them, to our knowledge as the public, were able to provide any clues or anything like that. So that's all along here. Those are those witnesses. To me, those aren't the ones of concern here, so we won't talk about those. And then also, there was a report today of some tatted old red van, but then I read in a report that it was actually parked on... Right. So the report said that the red suspicious van was parked on Hall Lane next to a barn. Now, I can't get in close enough to be able to find where the barn is. I know there's one back over there, but we're not going to go there. But if it was on Hall Lane, the one that's been reported twice, that's across the river. Okay, I'm not going to go down that road here because to me, that's stretching it. That's where you start to get into speculation. You know, she went over here, then this van did. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay. More information comes out to make it more plausible, then maybe. But on to where we were back at. Okay, so she's 8:43 towpath. She's here behind the bench. Then we know, per the Friends Facebook timeline, Nikki sent a email to her boss around 8:53 a.m. So she's either right in this area or right in this area. 8:57 to 8:59, Nikki sent a message to a friend, which was regarding a recent mortgage deal she had closed with them. 9:01, she's going to be in this area here. She logs into the team conference call. All right. And then whether she goes down here and comes up or this way, back up this way, in this general vicinity is the last time she is spotted by a witness, who is the old man with the white dog. Okay, this is at 9:10 a.m. A witness who knows Nikki saw her walking Willow on the upper field, which is right here. Okay, all right. So that's the last time she's seen, okay, in this area. Now, at 9:20 a.m., police have stated that the phone was placed back on the bench over here. Okay, and the last seen 9:10 here, last placed. So there's reports that a daughter-in-law, which is one of the three of the family here, found Willow running along the fence and bench here, tied him up, but then didn't do anything further at that point because she had an appointment to get to. She looked at Nicola's phone and noticed that she recognized the screensaver and who it was. Okay, so that's where I'm understanding that she told police she picked it up. That's why police is saying it was placed here at 9:20. Okay, they can't definitively say that Nicole was the last one to touch her phone because they have this witness, this daughter-in-law, who stated that she looked at it, so she had to touch it. Okay, and then all the way to 9:33 a.m., this would be the daughter-in-law. Dog walker found mobile phone on bench, harnessed with lead attached between the bench and river, and dog agitated between the bench and stile. The dog walker, which is the grumpy old lady or the daughter-in-law, tied up the dog with string attached to the collar and left the phone on the bench and returned home. They informed a family member that there was a phone and a dog at the bench as she had an appointment. Dog walker's family members recognized who the phone belonged to and recognized Willow and called the school immediately at 10:50 a.m. Okay, so they noticed Willow here. Let's go back. She's last seen here at 9:10 a.m. due to tele information, phone data, they know that her phone was placed here at 9:20 a.m. on the bench, okay? Then between 9:20 and 9:33, 13 minutes, this is when the daughter-in-law, grumpy woman, see Willow running around between the bench and the fence, tie him up, look at the phone, and sit it back on the bench, okay? 9:33. But they had an appointment, so they didn't do anything about it. So from 9:33 to 10:50, before the first call was made to anybody regarding the suspicion of where Nicola was, okay? So that's an hour and 17 minutes. An hour and 17 minutes. So let's say if she did fall in, that's not ideal because that gives her an hour and 17 minutes to make it whatever, however further he did. She would have. And called the school immediately at 10:50, okay? The school called Paul straight away, who immediately called the police and drove straight to where Nikki was last seen and where Willow was. A couple facts here that are from the same friend's Facebook, and I'll share these up here on the screen. Willow never has her harness on for a chunk of that walk. It's removed at the gate of the top field and then put back on at the gate when they leave. So once they get here, it is typical and normal for Nikki to take the harness off of Willow, and then as they do their walk here, any direction here, as long as they're all over here in the lower field, upper field, down here, Willow typically runs free and roams, which I think is awesome. I wish I had this type of space for my dog. That would be amazing. But then when they get back to the gate here to head back, Willow gets harnessed back up, typically. She's an incredibly strong swimmer. Nikki drove to the school and then left her car there and walked to the river. The dog was dry when found. The dog has since been back and didn't react to anything near the bench over here, which I'll get into a little bit later. This older guy over here with the white dog, the reason he remembered seeing Nikki, or so he states, is because he remembers Willow barking in this area. Okay, and then he further says that she was with two other people, which I'm going to get into that. Then I can't even get started on that right now. But he remembers it because Willow was barking. Now, fast forward the next day, family and friends brought Willow back out on the Saturday after Nikki was missing. Willow did not bark in this area. This is where Willow was found tied up. This is where Nikki's phone was found. However, it's important to note, Willow was not known to be a barker. It's not a common behavioral trait for her. However, when Willow came back in this vicinity the next day, Willow barked again. Seemed restless, was sniffing around, and would stare off into the distance. This is a major red flag to me. Major. There are some things here that are kind of like odd, look into it further, and I'll explain into it. But as time went along, this here is interesting to me. Why? The witness hasn't even spoken publicly, which I'm not saying that means anything. His wife has spoken for him, okay? He hasn't spoke publicly. Now why? That's weird. And also, he states there was two other people with her, okay? But yet, there's no other accounts by anybody at all that there was two other people here, okay? Who were those two people then? Apparently, they were two people that Nikki seen and this old man and nobody else. Nobody else. Now, if you follow the behavioral panel, people who add in details to complicate a case, to send direction elsewhere like that, that is a sign of deception. Okay? I've heard reports that looked like two fishermen. I hope he didn't say that, because that's even more of a red flag. If he's even suggesting what he thought they looked like or who they were, if it was two men or whatever, that's odd. Okay? Because he said that he remembered seeing Nikki, whom he knew, because Willow was barking. And further, that she was with two people who he didn't know. He was close enough to know it was Nikki and Willow. But he's then suggesting there was two people with her that he didn't recognize. Okay? But yet no other witness accounts suggest any other two people here. All right?
Person is a regular dog walker, okay? Walks her dog. A lady, yes. Walks her dog. But hates everybody else's dogs. And is pedantic about people having their dogs on a leash, even in a dog park. But this person finds she's going for her walk, okay? And then enters from the allotment lane area. It's like that. So let's say that, okay? From around here, that is the most plausible way to come from. Okay, goes here and gets to the bench, okay, and sees there's a phone and there's a dog running around, not on their leash, and the harness is on the ground, but a few feet away from the bench. Now, that the friend says that it could be easy to maybe miss the harness, but what this person does next is odd to me. They decide, there's a phone, there's a dog. So they tie the dog up with a rope, you guys. A rope. Don't ask me why they're carrying a rope.
So as you just saw there, that is Gisela K from Grizzly True Crime. She has a fantastic channel. I'm sure you're all aware of it. I am using her here to give credibility to what I'm saying. Apparently she has a good connection to one of Nikki's close friends that also is in touch with Paul, giving her a lot of these details, okay? So I've spliced out a couple things from her work over the last week, and I want to add those in there. Gisela, you're awesome. Keep doing your thing. I love your show. Been a fan since you started. And also, now while I'm at it, Michelle After Dark is the channel that I used for the walk with the Springer Spaniel that you see, which I believe her name is Cassie. She had created a video this week. She lives kind of close to the area. She visited and walked the path that Nikki did, and she suggested in her video that anybody could use it, just give her credit, which I'm already going to do that in the description, but I was so fortunate to have it that I want to give her a verbal shout out too. So I just wanted to splice this in here quick, give you some understanding as to why I just flipped over to her, what the heck. And then also I wanted the opportunity to use the way she says grumpy. It's so funny. But all right, let's get back to it, and then I'm going to wrap it up with my final conclusions on the two things, and we should be good to go.
So this person, she's grumpy. She's very grumpy. Okay, she's known as grumpy. She's walking a dog, okay? She's going out there. She finds the phone and the dog. She decides, this bloody dog is not on its leash, and then ties the dog, I guess, to the bench with a rope, and then decides, nope, I've got an appointment now, and marches off to whatever appointment that is. It's still not clear what appointment that is, okay? Marches off to the appointment. At some point during the marching off and, going, calls their daughter-in-law. The daughter-in-law, it is says, either by description or by curiosity and going down there to the bench and actually seeing the phone. I think the latter is the most accurate from everything I've heard. So the daughter-in-law, she tells the daughter-in-law, hey, there's a dog out there. I've tied the dog up with rope and there's a phone there, and basically go check it out. So the daughter-in-law goes there. She sees the phone and the dog, and then grabs the phone and sees the screensaver and recognizes who that is. I think with Grumpy, speculatively speaking, could be their son, daughter-in-law, and yes, the daughter-in-law went out there physically to look at the dog and the phone situation. And then the school was called at 10:50. We don't have exact confirmation of when the daughter-in-law went to look. All we know is at 9:33, apparently the phone was found on the bench. The dog was then tied up with a rope. Interesting. And then the daughter-in-law was told and came out there at some point, and at 10:50 the school was called. This is from family and friends going out there the next morning and asking around, walking around, speaking to people and being like, what? People that are in the immediate area are the dog walker. Just to call it a dog walker lady, is that what we're saying? Dog walker lady, DWL. The other dog walker lady who found the phone and everything and tied Willow up with a rope, I believe it is her son, that set up the CCTV cameras at their property. And I would wonder if they then also set up the CCTV on the other side, and if any of them would have knowledge of the one camera not working. I would wonder if the son knows a lot about CCTV footage. There have been reports that a dog walker in the area has said, if your dog is off the lead, if I find you again with your dog off the lead, I'll shoot your dog. There's somebody threatening that kind of stuff out there in this area, okay? At 9:10, now that's the thing, 9:10. At 9:10, she's seen on the upper field, and Willow was off the lead, no harness, normal for Nicola. Now, who saw her? Apparently an elderly man, who's a regular dog walker too. Some have speculated may, I don't know, live in this area, this Rowan Water area. I don't know anything about him, but he hasn't spoken for himself. His wife spoke to the media, and what was passed on was, yes, he saw about 3 people in the field that day. And for some of you might be like, why are you going over this again? Because it's very important. That man's account of who was in the field and what he saw is critical. If you saw 3 people in the field, were they male? Were they female? I mean, were they teenagers? Was it older males, younger males, woman, a granny? Who was it? Who are the 3 people in the field? I would assume, including Nicola. And he said there was nothing abnormal except the friend that I'm talking to, who wants to remain anonymous, so please respect that. Of course, you know how it goes on YouTube, you guys. You don't be like, okay, hello, I'm coming forward, let's do an interview, I'm the friend. No, you don't want that. The reason that man noticed Nicola here, around here, is because Willow was barking. Now, we don't know what she was barking at. You know, was it a squirrel? I think there's also like foxes in the area. And this is also an area where Willow, when they took Willow there the next day, reacted a little bit. She didn't react at the bench. She was fine as per normal, doing a thing. But when they got to this area, they noticed that Willow was a little more alert, sniffed around a little bit, reacted a bit, was looking in the distance, looking for something, and then went back to normal.
Most likely at this point, I'm going to stick with number 1, abducted or taken. Now, a big key that I think is important not to overlook here, under the idea of being abducted or taken, it is likely that someone involved whom knew the CCTV footage or cameras were not in working order. The only 2 spots wherein something could have happened, whether it be Nikki fell in, was taken, etc., happened within the 2 dark spots, so to speak. To me, if it was falling in the river, sure, then the 2 CCTVs not working is a mere coincidence. But if it is due to any other reason, one would think, given what we know now, that said subject had knowledge of not being caught on camera. With that said, remember, if we consider all of the potential outcomes, narrowing it down, I want to mention a side note here. After having spent a lot of time on this episode, I had original order of number 1 through 4. It has changed slightly. Hence, I will update and show a revised approach. That is, number 1 still remains an abduction or taken. It remains strong. Number 2 and number 3 is why I've made the change. Number 2, I now believe, is in fact the river. After having researched and learned a little about Roger Jones, the young man who went missing quite some time ago in the same general area, was not found for 2 months, and further ended up 7 miles away from where he had went in. Yes, the case is a bit different, but said instance shows the anomalies that Mother Nature may have in the area. It's important not to disregard that. Further, given that Nikki was last observed at 9:10 a.m. in the upper field, yet for some reason the police began their heavy extensive searching down beyond the lower field, where Willow and the phone were found near the bench. If the phone and Willow being tied up were moved or placed there as a decoy, which it's seeming to look like that's what the case is, this could have added even more time and distance she could have traveled if, let's say, she in fact went in up by where she was last seen. Also considering that the grumpy lady, daughter-in-law, tied Willow up at 9:33 a.m., but didn't call the school until, was it 10:50 a.m., whom then called Paul, who then contacted the police after first driving from his residence to the scene. You understand what I'm saying? Think of how much time had elapsed if, in fact, Nikki did fall in, yet at a location up north of the upper field, by where the old man with the white dog last saw her. They most likely didn't search that area until 4 to 6, 8 hours after the fact, first focusing their attention on the lower field bench area. Then, number 3, is the partner, the affair potential, monetary, kids, motivated, that idea. And then number 4, leaving under her own will. At this point, I believe taken and abducted is most likely the answer. So let's call that green. Then fallen in the river is second. Let's call that yellow, as it is less likely than number 1. While number 3 and 4, in my opinion, have switched to red. Most unlikely. Paul speaking out today in his interview, I think, showed a lot to his character. That's authentic and I think really bolsters his case. I was glad to see that. Now, only focusing on number 1, taking and abducted. There's not many options or potential parties that could reasonably be responsible, unless, of course, you consider a stranger, i.e., one of the 2 subjects in question the old man with the white dog suggested seeing, which I'm highly suspect of to begin with. Or it could be a member of the family of 3 residing at the caravan park. The son is associated with the CCTV. The grumpy lady is known to be irate when people let their dogs off lead. Those are really the only 2 options, unless you consider, someone in a red van. But then you have to go, how do you get across the river? And I'm not going to go there. Most reasonably, given the circumstances and facts that we know, I think it could either come from the family of 3 or the old man with the white dog. Or she fell in. In my opinion, those are the 3 options. Okay? Now, the grumpy lady and the daughter-in-law tied up Willow because he was running around. Why? Because she's known to hate this. It seems suspicious on its face, but then going to an appointment, maybe she really didn't think the worst at that time. But remember, it gets under her skin. If she sees a dog run around off a leash, she's going to go tie it up because she's paranoid like that, or she's easily agitated by that. And then it would just be natural for her to then go to an appointment, okay? Remember, she couldn't have possibly known what it would turn out to be if she, in fact, had nothing to do with it. On its face, it looks and seems suspicious. Maybe even a potential motive, right? Yet, the dog was fine. He was merely tied up. If we can all agree that it would be the dog that would be most likely associated with her flying off the handles and losing it, acting on Nikki, she wouldn't then in turn tie the dog up, take Nikki away. She, referring to any of the 3 members of the family. However, it is intriguing to think of the son's association with the CCTV. My leading suspicion at this time surrounds the old man with the white dog. He is the last known witness of Nikki. He suggested he saw her with 2 other individuals, yet nobody else has accounts of this. He claims that he recognized her and Willow, but not the 2 subjects that he also stated that he saw with her. He claimed the only reason he noticed her was because Willow barked. Yeah, was it at you? I mean, you were close enough to hear it. Is this what provoked it? Initial reports, remember, this is important. Right at the start, in the first week, we're skeptical about the second witness account in that it was yet to be confirmed. Police directly published that they needed to follow up and confirm exact time of the second witness, i.e. 9:10 to 9:15 a.m. That's why we hear 9:15 in some press conferences. Further, consider that they are still looking for dash cam around that same time, up around Garstang Road. He, the old man with the white dog, has not spoken publicly, leaving it to his wife to do so for him. Didn't he say he knew her and recognized her? Why not then speak on her behalf if you witnessed? He does live there, known to be a routine dog walker. Likely, he would also have knowledge of the CCTV being out in this area as well. Maybe he's a nosy neighbor. He would know something like that. The old man with the white dog is a huge red flag. To me, Willow has been the key this entire time. She was with Nikki the entire morning and had to be present when whatever happened. The old man with the white dog was the absolute, without a doubt, last person and time she, Nikki, was claimed to have been seen. So was she actually seen at this time? Or could he have potentially fabricated this to push the time frame off? Don't believe that. I'm just pondering. Remember, the police are asking for dash cam footage around approximately 9:15 a.m. 5 minutes after this supposed sighting by the man and the white dog. Which would make sense because Willow went running, right? He's stuck, he's locked in this place by a fence. He's running back to where he knows, can I get back out this way? The lady or the daughter-in-law saw this errant dog running around, went and tied him up, didn't think anything of it, went to her appointment. And then coming back and realizing, holy cow, Willow is still tied up. I know who it is because I looked at the screensaver. Then they call the school, who then calls Paul, then calls the police. That makes sense to me. Now, back to the old man with the white dog. Willow was barking in this vicinity of the old man. He even states that's why he remembers it. In the area that day, the last time she was seen. As well as upon returning back later the next day with family and friends. Yes, you heard that right. On the upper field, not down by the bench, wherein this older man supposedly saw Nicola walking with Willow off lead, is the exact same area where Willow, again, a day later, alerted and acted off. Okay? Willow's not known to be a barking dog. I trust the senses of dogs. I said it in the last episode. There's a cue there. I'm telling you, something's up there. Okay? Now, to tie a pretty bow on this entire episode, could he have been studying and watching her routine, then ventured out north towards the bay and mouth of the sea, approximately 20 miles down the road, to put her in the water to get rid of her? That is, the police may be looking for Nikki in the water still, really for two reasons. Either she fell in, or they have reason to believe she could have been placed there. If it was associated with the caravan family, the son, the daughter-in-law, and the grumpy lady, I would think the motive would have been pent-up anger, whereas the older gentleman, more than likely, would be sexually motivated, which, if true, he would then need to get rid of his deeds. In that area, given all the CCTV, what would be the best way? I don't know, venturing out of the village towards the rural areas, finding a river or stream that seemed to be absolutely everywhere all over England, that feeds in or out of the Wyre. They all eventually come together at the mouth. Remember, 2 days ago, the police extended their search out to the bay. So realistically, the police could have two cards in play here, really. Now, the last interesting thing I wanted to know and present. I noticed on the Michelle After Dark footage, when she is approaching the bench fence area, there appears to be a broken 2x4 on the top level of the fence line. I'll show it here, which is almost parallel to the bench. Look, it's very interesting. Now, why? If Nicola did make it down in those 5 minutes back towards the bench area where Willow was found running, in between the bench and the stile, and the foam was on the ground and the harness was on the ground, if someone's coming up behind you, remember, Nikki goes there every day. She's not going to turn and look at every sound that comes. Why? Because it's a frequented dog park. It would be normal for people to come and go. She's listening to her conference call. She's paying attention to Willow. If you look at the video footage, there would be an advantage for someone coming through there and coming up and behind her and grabbing her, okay? If they do that and they try to pull her away back where they came from, back where those trees and those brush and the farm, this is where I'm referring to the caravan park, okay? You would somehow try to knock her out. I'm going to speculate here. Let's say you walk up behind her, you put a cloth of chloroform over her, then you try to drag her over. Over what? The fence. Could this break that top fence? Well, once you do that, you're in the clear. Why? Because there's trees, there's a fence, and the property's owned by the caravan family. Okay? But Willow didn't bark there the next day. That's what turns me off from that hypothesis. But I do want to share and show it to you. Okay? With that said, I am going to finally get myself some sleep. This episode has had me tossing and turning in bed the past few nights, trying to get it done right. I hope I hope that everybody enjoys this and that it can be informative in some way. I appreciate every one of you in the community, especially those of you still here now listening. Thank you sincerely. I really hope the length of this video does not detour viewership. Please share and suggest if you enjoy or consider it informative. All right, everyone. Until next time, Mind Juice out.